Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so glad you could join us this lovely sunny Sunday afternoon in Somerville. Too many S's in that sentence. My name is Sherry Stout. I'm the owner of Main Street Reads in Somerville, South Carolina, and I am over the moon thrilled to have with us a Pulpwood Queen National Honoree Award-winning, brilliant author, speaker, and coach with us today, Ruthie Landis, whose company Ruthie Energy has been helping so many people for so many years. There is no way you come out of something with Ruthie and don't feel peaceful and energized and inspired. And I had the honor and privilege of working with her on her latest book called My Musings, if you can see it there. It is a fabulous guided journal, great graphics inside. Don't know if you can see any of that. Great writing spaces, all blank pages, nothing unlined. We're not trying to keep anyone in a box. But this is a book and it's sized so that you can carry it with you. I carry mine with me. The prompts in here are brilliant. For those of us who are here from our Main Street Writes Writers group, I know that we're going to use some of these prompts in weekly things. We'll give you a prompt in the next week. Anyone who wants to share that at the outset of the session, we can start doing that. I see a lot of Zoom groups forming or live groups forming to do just that sort of thing. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Ruthie because she is way more peaced out and chill than me. And take it away, my darling. Anyone needs anything, just give a shout in the chat room and we'll get it taken care of, okay?
Great. And Sherry, thank you for doing this. You know, I've been giving workshops for 30 years. And so it's such a pleasure to not have to have produced it. So Sherry just took care of everything. She did Eventbrite, which felt so cool. And it's usually me, you know, navigating it all myself. So what a wonderful way to start out the new year, feeling really, really supported by Sherry, like I always do. So thank you, darling girl.
Very welcome.
All right. So, what I suggest about any kind of introspective experience is to always begin with a bit of a ritual of some sort. I'm going to start us with a ritual to create a kind of safe container for us. And I invite people when they're working with my musings or even my guided journal and acting lessons for living, that you start opening a space or a zone for yourself to be able to tap into something very personal with yourself, and also, I guess, feel supported. So, and make sure that everybody is muted. Great. And what I'm going to do, so some people might have a cup of coffee and some people might light a candle. In this case, because I'm working with a backdrop of how we're so interconnected with nature, I'm going to use a way to open the directions, which comes from many indigenous tribes do this. And it's where you face a certain direction. I'm not going to face that. I'm going to imagine I am. And each direction, I'll ring a bell. And there's actually 7 directions. We might think there are 4, but there are actually 7. So if you just would rest your feet on the floor and get present with yourself. I'm going to begin by opening the direction of the south. And the South is sort of the physical and material world. It's our health, it's our support, it's everything that is the human form being held. So now I open the next direction, which would be the West. And the West, sometimes called Grandmother Moon, it's our whole emotional realm. It's water element, as you know, the south would be the earth element, the physical world. And the moon holds all of our emotions, and the west is the moon. It's all of our emotions, the whole range of them. So now we move to the north. And the north is sort of the spirit world, or the world of our ancestors. It's a tribal kind of feeling to the north. And it's a feeling of sort of support that we don't know where that support comes from. Now we move to the east. And the east is father son. So it's sort of the masculine and mental energy. It's the way that we manifest in our lives. It's the doing part of us. It's the illumination for us. The moon illuminates too, but it illuminates like mirroring inside of the darkness. Whereas the east is full of light and full of energy and fire and passion. Now we have, of course, below, which is the earth that we put our feet on. And in indigenous tribes, they call this Pachamama, the great Mother Earth. So I'm going to ring for that. And so nothing really can come about for ourselves if we didn't have the earth supporting us. So at any moment we're not feeling supported, and if this happens during our little time together, then feel the earth. Know that the chair you're sitting on is being held by the earth below it, and that you are being held. Because when we're doing introspective work, it's not always easy to unmask and unveil to ourselves. It's nice to know something is holding us without judgment, just with compassion. And now above, above the universe, the heavens, the stars, the reminder that we're all interconnected, all stardust. And the last direction is the direction we need the most right now, which is within. So in order to work with this guided journal, you have to be able to go within. So it's so interesting that, you know, as within, so without. So we really want very much to be able to acknowledge that there is a direction that is the within. So I ring that last. Seven directions. I just want you to check if somebody, like, I think Kat, maybe if you could turn off mute or a little bit sometimes, so we would just have a lot of quiet.
I cannot hear you.
So Kat, talk to me. You're saying you can't hear? No.
I might sign out
Okay.
and come back in.
Okay, sweetie. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. All right. So how did this come about? Where was My Musings born from? So what happened was my very, 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 very best friend, Joy, who passed away 2 years ago in December. You know, I tried to connect with her a lot. And then all of a sudden, like 6 months after she passed on, I began to get these morning inspirations. It was really weird. Like I would just wake up with this thought or this inspiration. And whether it was her sending it to me or not, I don't know. But every morning it happened. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with this? And so I decided to just post these little inspirations, very short, on Facebook. And then all of a sudden, Kathy Murphy said, of Pulpwood Queen said, I really think you should write a book with these inspirations. So I was working on 2 other books at the time, and I thought, oh, am I going to do this? And then I said, well, I had 50 weeks, 52 weeks worth. And then I thought, but what's going to be the backdrop of this for me? Not just like random inspirations. So I work with something called the Chinese 5-element theory. I don't know if any of you all know about that, but it's what acupuncture is based on. It's an ancient, ancient, ancient wisdom. And they knew that the mind, the body, the heart, the spirit was all connected to everything around us. It was all connected to the seasons and all the aspects of the elements, and that there was a seamlessness, and that the outside world had impact on the inside world. And so I thought, well, I love this, and I work with this with my clients all the time, and with myself. When something physical is coming up for me, I go, what element is out of balance here? What isn't in balance as it's showing up in my body? I'm a body-centered psychotherapist, so I always believe that the body never lies. The body is always giving us wisdom. And so I thought, well, this is a perfect backdrop. So what I then did was I divided these. I'm going to just share, and I'm going to go right into my Word doc here. And so I want to try to get this out of the way here. Okay. So I decided to take these journal prompts and put them into the seasons and be able to introduce the participant with the book to these seasons, and what kind of data we could get from what was happening outside of us as well as what was happening inside of us. So I'm just going to read you this little section, actually from my first book, but I put it in this book too. Nature holds it all. It has no preference. In Chinese 5-element theory, the basis of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, the seasons, the elements, human emotions, and every part of the body are interconnected and in a constant dance with each other. The ancient Chinese sages knew the value of recognizing this and identifying the excesses and deficiencies, the energetic balances and imbalances of the human being. They put these imbalances in context with the world she or he inhabited. Their principles embraced nature and the human nature into one whole circle of existence. That is why, to this day, acupuncture and the 5 elements are an intensely encompassing healing modality. So I want to invite you all to just drop into the world of the 5 elements before we work on any particular prompt. So I'm going to invite you again to sit comfortably, to connect with your body and within. And we will begin with the winter element. Now, I know some of you live in areas in which the seasons are not as pronounced as they are, like in the Midwest, but you know the subtleties of the seasons. This might even be a good moment for you to ask yourself, what's my favorite season and why? Why? Why isn't my favorite season? And what seasons don't I like? and why. And even if you live in a, very temperate climate, there are subtleties. You know those subtleties. You know those rhythms in yourself. So we begin with this imagination of the winter element. The winter is the beginning of the year. It correlates with the water element. For us here, it's snow. In some climates, it's very rainy. Now, the winter element is that time when all the plants go down under. They hibernate. They disappear from their blooms. But it actually is a very, very strong regrouping time for them. What if I don't have to bloom all the time? What if there is a season in which I allow myself to regroup and rest and not have to be producing and productive? Now, those plants going down under, they actually are doing a lot. We might call it the fertile void. It's a time where things are germinating, ideas are percolating. And the winter element, interesting, correlates to the kidneys. And you can see water element, kidneys, and bladder. And those organs also would correlate with the emotions of fear and maybe sadness and grief. We know that we cry when we're sad, water element. Fear, I mean, we might freeze, right? We might just freeze up. So right away, I'm aware of, well, if I have something going on in my kidneys or my bladder, something is out of balance in my winter or my water element. And I need to look at that. What am I afraid of? What's blocking me? What's freezing me up? What's making me stuck? And so here we are, and we're like this plant going down under the earth. And as we move into springtime, it's very powerful, because what happens is the plants that are down under have been organizing themselves, and they've been waiting. Now's the time. I'm going to organize myself, and I'm going to push up through the ground, even sometimes through cement. Whatever's there is this, strong desire to manifest. And so this element of springtime correlates with what we call the wood element. Think about it. Woody, the plant, strength, has to organize itself. Now, it also correlates with the liver and the gallbladder, and that has something to do with anger, frustration. Anger has many faces. And so when I'm too woody, too dry, I get brittle and I get angry. And I'll notice that something is out of balance if I'm feeling angry. Something. What is that thing that is making me so angry right now? So rigid, so frustrated. So look at this. How interesting. If the water is in balance and is gently feeding the wood, then what happens to the wood? It softens. It becomes less brittle. So interesting that the wood element, to be able to be flexible instead of inflexible, it needs the help of the water element. That's sort of like its mother that comes before it. And you say, oh, sadness and fear is the mother of this. Yeah, but those are essential emotions, essential human emotions, and have much to bring us. Now we work from wood into summer. And summer is about passion, heat. Remember, when we open the direction, Father, Son. And what happens in the summer is all of that the wood element was organizing. Now it bursts into creativity. It bursts into manifestation, into blooming. And it has that season and it correlates with the heart. Now, what's important to know is that none of these seasons have to, like, in the middle of winter, I might be blooming like crazy. Like right now, I am so busy, so much is manifesting. So it doesn't have to literally correlate to that time of year. So as I bloom, I can be blooming in the winter, but I would notice that what was helping me get there and what isn't helping me get there. Now we move, again, I want to watch something here. With fire, we can get too fiery and we can burn ourselves out. So again, we need to acknowledge what puts out fire. Water. Water puts out fire. So if I'm too watery, if I'm too in my fear, if I'm too in my grief, probably not a lot of, blooming is going to happen during that time. So then I might need to have a little bit of fire burn away some of that water. And how do I do that? Well, I consciously do that. I consciously say, what do I need to make my water a little bit less? Because it's waterlogging my creativity. It's making me not able to manifest. Now we move to the next season, which would be pre-autumn. And it is something we call sort of harvest time. The earth element correlates with the stomach and the spleen, and it's about self-nurturing. Just like it's about harvest, it's nurturing for ourselves, it's nurturing other people. And when that's out of balance, we can't partake in the joys and the nourishment of our creativity. And so that is there are many of us that are really off, like we're nourishing others too much. We're not nourishing ourselves and doing enough self-care for ourselves. And then the last element is the metal element. That would be autumn. That's when the trees let go of their leaves. And they say, okay, I have to make room because in the next year, I need space. I need space to bloom again. So it's the time of lung, breathing in and breathing out, taking in just enough oxygen and letting go of what I don't need. So metal forms itself, a piece of gold in the earth forms itself by extracting just what it needs out of the earth to become itself and letting go of everything else. And so for many of us, if I'm holding on to feelings or things or hoarding, that means that my metal air element is off. So can you see how you are all these things? All these things. And so when you ask yourself the question, what's my favorite season? What do I like most? Oh, I like summer because I'm so much color. It's always blooming. But what am I missing in the seasons that I don't appreciate as much? And what happens if I get too much of one thing that I like? How am I missing out on something else? So I'm going to share again now. And I'm going to show you an example of how we begin and open the year. So the first prompt, and I want you to actually see which of these two you like. You don't need to choose both of them. Just choose one or the other that you feel speaks to you right now. And for those who do have the book, I know people have said to me that, oh, I don't like writing in my book. I don't like writing in it. It's such a pretty book. Why would I write in it? Because this is a process of befriending yourself. It's not, the book is not mine. The book is yours. So the first one at the beginning of the book is opening me. And the prompt is, what needs unlocking today? How have you shut tight the book of yourself and put you on a shelf? It's time to open yourself and read about what you have been avoiding. So in order to read about what you have been avoiding, you have to touch into it, and then you can write about it, and then you can read about it. So that's the first prompt. What needs unlocking today? And if you go blank on that, then you just really have to drop into your body and go, what my body right now feels tight, feels constricted, doesn't feel open. So your body is already telling you whether your mind is or not. So that's the first prompt. And then I talked about winter and water. And so on your journey, you circle, it's the beginning of the year here, right? You circle familiar challenges, believing you have already tamed. I have to put on my other glasses, sorry guys. Believing you have already tamed those internal and external dragons. You are not repeating full circle, though it may feel that way. You are in the midst of the ever-moving spiral of your life. You have changed incrementally because as you go down to come up, you have indeed grown. You are always ascending, whether you're passing something familiar or not. So the second prompt that I wanted you to be able to choose from today would be to write about some repeating challenges that continue to occur in your life, things that are familiar. Here I am again. Remember those moments when you have said to yourself, not again. Just because the pattern is reminiscent of other times, that doesn't mean you have not grown. After all, just noticing with mindfulness is a change in and of itself. In your exploration, take note that although the circumstances or issues feel very recognizable to you, there are many things that are different. Write about the familiarities and the significant differences of those patterns, and celebrate what you notice is your ascending evolution. So those are two prompts. The first one is what's locked up inside of me and needs to open as I approach this new year. And the second one is, am I facing something familiar already here? And can I take note about what that pattern seems to be? And then, is it really the same? Or how have I resourced myself over the many years? And how is it different now? So I'm going to stop the share, and I'm going to invite you guys to take just a few minutes to write about one of those prompts. So before I do, I just want to ask if anybody has any questions, anything that, okay, can you please type both the questions in? I can't do that. They're kind of long. So instead, Sangeetha, would you unmute yourself?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So can you please copy and paste from your document just the top questions? The first question, yeah, that will help. Just to,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, I will do that, but you know what? I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
just that you you think about what the two questions were yourself. So what do you think the first question is? Do you remember it?
Yes, it's what needs unlocking today and what needs to be open. What is
Absolutely.
feeling, what are you feeling constricted about?
Yes, beautiful. So see, you've got that one. That's great.
Okay.
And the second one, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
maybe that resonates with you and that's what you want to do, but the second one
Mm-hmm.
was about patterns in your life. Are
Mm-hmm.
you noticing that you are um, coming upon things that you'd already thought you'd taken care of, and there they are surfacing again in your life, and you can't hide from them because you know when those patterns start to reveal themselves to you, you kind of go, I thought I'd worked on this, but here it is again. And so this is really inviting you to look at, is there something that's in my face again that needs attending to? Where do I go when I am faced with that pattern? And has it always been that way? Or how have I moved through it and beyond it at other times in my life? So does that make sense to you?
Yes, yes, very much. I think I want to go with the second. I want to write first also to some extent, but I
Yeah,
want to elaborate on the second one. Yeah.
I love that.
Okay.
So thank you so much. So
Thank you.
anybody else have a question that they want to ask before you dive into a little bit of writing? No? Wonderful. All right. So we're going to just give you a little time and go for it. And I'm going to write about it too.
Just one question. So how long will you be giving us time?
I think what I want you to look at is that this is just going to be about 5 minutes
Okay.
to 7 minutes, and that you can return to it. You don't have to feel like, oh, I got to get this done. There's a product here. It's just like a portal, just like crossing over a threshold with this.
Okay.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
sure.
Ruthie?
Yeah.
I think most people are done writing.
Okay, I'll be ready in a minute. Thanks. Okay, if you haven't finished, and please feel like you can continue or return to this at any time. I'm going to begin by reading myself. And I want to say that, nobody has to read. Giving yourself permission to not have to sometimes opens you up to wanting to. So allow yourself, I don't have to, but it would be lovely if some of you felt that you wanted to share right now. And so TK, I see you waving.
I was just going to ask you if you could maybe move the computer closer to you or something. I'm barely able to hear your your beautiful but soft voice.
Okay, I got my sound turned up loud. Hopefully you do too. And I will read loudly. Okay. Okay. So I'll begin with that. I chose the first one, but as I was writing it, I was also realizing that the first one and the second one merged together so that what needed unlocking also was something familiar to me. It was a pattern that I live with all the time. So I thought, I thought I chose this one, but actually they've merged. So what I wrote was this. Can you hear me okay, TK? I'm going to project. All right. I feel locked sometimes in my heart, defended a bit. What am I getting? What am I protecting? Rejection, judgment, getting burnt out, too much fire, too much exposure, failure. My heart never really closes up. It pumps as long as I breathe. But sometimes I put a filter over it, not a wall exactly, not armor either, but something that doesn't quite trust that I can be completely free. Why don't I trust that my heart is strong enough to handle rejection and judgment and failure? It has survived these things many times. I'm still here. My heart still beats. I notice a big breath, a deep sigh as I write this, and then another. My lungs help my heart open. My lungs whisper, trust the wisdom of your heart. It knows how to discern what it can handle and what it can't. And it doesn't have to be open all the time. So that was what struck me. Would anybody else like to share? TK? So would you unmute yourself, darling? Thank you.
Sure. So I had no idea what I was going to do, and I recalled something that's been bothering me. So there's a book I've tried to read for 2 years now. It's called 12 Tiny Things, and I can't get past the first thing. That's true. The first chapter is about finding space. And I have not been able to read beyond that because I know it is something important that I need. I want to open myself to finding space for myself, whatever that means. I'm not sure what it means, but it resonates. I'm so busy with things. I feel them crowding in on me and overwhelming me. So I feel that although I do a lot of things, there's no space just to be, or is that just another thing I need to do? Find time to meditate, time to journal. I fear journaling because of a bad experience in the past of someone reading it and getting angry with me. So I have this reluctance to write down my inner thoughts, but I can't hear what is going on inside me because I'm too busy doing things. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So space. Yeah. What is space and what crowds us out, right? So one thing that I just would like to comment on is that, you know, when you do this on your own and nobody's reading it, you know, it still is hard. It's like sometimes you're your own audience, right? As you're even reading what you're writing.
Yeah, I found myself editing that.
Right, and editing. Yeah, you're writers, so you do that. And then, so also imagining that this is a little group of people that would meet, you know, and they could meet once a week and for 30 minutes, you know, do this little journaling together. Like there's something profound about meditating together. Well, there is something profound about writing together too. Like that space that I was oblivious to, you know, even who was done and who wasn't done. But what's really important is that there are some kinds of rules of engagement in those kinds of groups, which means that people aren't allowed to judge. You know, they're not allowed to voice their opinions about what it is you write. And so in all of my books, I didn't do that in this book because I thought it was going to be more of an individual experience. But then people were saying no, that they really kind of thought that this could be a really valuable group experience. And so always there should be a rules of engagement. How do we create a safe container so that we can face ourselves and so that we can face not be afraid to give voice to things that people have their own projections about. So I just want you to think about that a little bit. Like, do you provide yourself with enough safety, with enough the requirements to make you be able to not be crowded out, you not be crowded out? So that's just something I thought about. Would anybody else like to read?
Can I add my 2 cents to what TK said? Is it okay?
Say that again.
Can I have something to add to what you said, like to what actually TK told about journaling. Can I or no?
I would prefer not. That's exactly
Okay.
kind of what I'm saying, is like, it's like, so I'm facilitating, so I get to kind of point out a few things, but that's when it kind of gets a little dangerous, because we never know whether the person who's just exposed themselves, how they're going to take that. And what we really want is to make this experience as safe as we possibly can.
No, it is just sharing my experience, what I do with journaling. Even I had the same concern like what she had. So how I overcame, how I overcame. That's what I wanted to share. Is that okay or no? It's not about pointing to hers.
Yeah, so let's wait. Would you
Okay,
like to read
that's
your
fine.
piece right now?
That's fine. Sorry?
Would you like to read your piece right now?
Sure. Yeah, I
Great.
can do that. Yeah. So, so the first question, I just have one sentence, like I need to unlock my heart that feels constricted to open up to the beautiful experiences in my life. And I chose to elaborate on the second question because I felt, there are some things that I have recognized as repeating challenges. So there are two areas. The first one is uh, regarding the masculine energy in my life that is not consistent and supportive as much as I want them to be. Even if they are, like my dad, father-in-law, husband, brother, I lose their support when I don't agree with how they think or act. So I am like how I'm so this is the situation. So this is a repeating thing that I'm seeing, right, with the masculine sub in my family. So I'm moving through it through my awareness and constantly working on forgiving the unsupportive males in my life, while at the same time honoring and feeling grateful for what they have done, and starting to shift the focus from them to masculine energy in myself by tuning within. And I start asking these questions within myself. How am I going to shift my thought patterns around this? How do I support myself here and do the work on myself to get this resolved? So this has been my thing for the first one. The second one is around money. And I've always supported people with money in my life, but I feel shy to ask anybody for money because somehow I feel it feels like I'm at their mercy and I don't want to be in that place. I wish to stand in my power always. So when I think I have to ask money, it's like from others, I feel like I'm not powerful. So maybe that's one limiting belief that I have, that I identify. And though I'm able to invite the flow of money to some extent through my own efforts and mindful thoughts, there seems to be some conditions or abundance blocks around receiving money or wealth that doesn't let me receive it in abundance and embrace it fully, especially at times when I feel my respect might be compromised in receiving that money. So I'm the way how am I moving through it? I'm moving through it by attempting to understand my money mindset and to learn and uncover my abundance blocks and work through it.
Thank you, Sangeetha.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw something out too, just with this experience. So let's say that you decide to start a little group and to have a few people that you journal with. So you're not alone. One rule of engagement that I might say is that it really helps to just read what you've written, to not have to explain yourself, because even then you're not allowing whatever was flowing from you, which I could tell, like when you were reading to us from your journal, right? And when you weren't. And the part where we explain ourselves isn't quite as pure as the moment that we're putting words to page. So in some groups that I've led, I will say, you don't have to apologize, you don't have to explain. Whatever you read, it's just enough. And nobody really is going to comment on it. Maybe they resonate with it, maybe they don't. But what you write is enough. So thank you so much for sharing, Sangeetha. Thank you.
Thank you.
So anybody else? Yeah, Carol, thank you.
Unmute. Now that I've unmuted, I've got to find my document again. There we go. I chose to go with the second one and just sort of maybe the spirit of it, I guess. And I did just a couple of paragraphs that I think of as, I'm calling it the power of the pause, breaking the cycle. In each moment, there exists a critical void between imagination and action. In truth, to call this space a void is the ultimate in irony. In this interval resides the balance of life, the weight of the soul. It is as the intake of breath before the song, the balling of fists before the fight. It is everything that makes me, me. It is everything. The space between thought and action is where I live. All the important stuff is there. A stimulus arises, followed by a response. But in the magic interval between, there's a choice. Will the response be the same as it was last time, or the time before that? Or will I grow, adapt, and overcome habituation? My power, such that I have, thrums one heartbeat at a time in this space of decision. I shut my eyes and squeeze my thoughts between the pulsations and let my mind unreel. There are no boundaries here. All things are possible in this present moment. Magic.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you so much. So, thank you. So, Elise, you're waving your hand. Would you like to read next? Great.
Courage. Courage to choose me, my needs, my truth, my heart's desire. Courage to listen and get to know what those things are. I feel weight, pressure in my chest. I'm afraid of the consequences and letting go of what isn't aligned with those things. I feel locked in my pelvis, cut off from pleasure and feeling joy fully. What do I need from me? A break from my head, a break from my husband, a break from the demands of others. Are they demands or requests from others with a pressure I associate with and attach to them? Pressure. There's that word again. A heat sensation presences itself on the outer edges of my heart space. A heat that could be cold as well, as if heat that has frozen. My head wants to jump in and analyze. A call to pause. Remember, this I need a break from.
Thank you, Elise. Anyone else want to share? Kat? No? Yes?
I said, I guess I will. They're all seem similar. I can relate with just about all of them. The rusted lock was the one that called my name. Frustration with feeling stuck, frozen in my creativity. Solitary confinement is a double-edged sword. I play well with others, but am content alone. But I doubt the quality of my projects. Even preparing to dance for June. In June, I fear the spotlight and know how badly I want my body to send the message of hope and appreciation for my ability to dance and breathe. So again, another opportunity to face self-doubt and develop muscle memory that I missed in childhood.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, it's interesting when, you know, Kat made a comment about resonating with, you know, other people. And Sangeetha, that's not maybe the same thing as what we were saying. If I think if we make an I statement like that, that isn't a reaction to another person's writing, that you know, that just highlights a little bit what Kat said about the interconnectedness of all of us, that we're all human and we're all interconnected in some ways that we wouldn't even know. And that's one of the beauties of being in a group, is being able to tap into that somebody else's voice is my voice too, in some ways. Anybody else? Would anybody else like to read? So let's tap away from that a second. And what I'd like to open it up to is in your journaling experiences, TK talked about some judgment that had come up before, but in your journaling experiences in the past, do you like just journaling freely, or does it help to have a prompt to open something up for you or not? I'm just interested.
For me, I think the prompt is super useful. Because, in this case, what I wrote about is I need that pause. I don't pause enough. And so I'm just going, and I carry all that, tension in my shoulders and stuff. But that chance to pause and breathe reminds me to love the process, because sometimes the process is the result. So that is the beauty of this for me, is those prompts. If I just say I'm going to journal, I'm not going to journal. But if I have, a prompt to say, okay, let's just ask this one tiny question, then that kind of gives you that springboard, that kicking off point for me.
Yeah. The last thing that we want a journaling experience to be is something else to put on our plate.
No.
Something else that we should be doing, or that doesn't give us space, something else that that's another requirement for whatever. And I don't think that benefits us at all. So in writing these, I was kind of like going, well, how can, and having it in the backdrop of the different seasons, and actually there's something that I don't know if you guys know about, called bibliomancy. And bibliomancy is when you don't have to follow anything in any kind of order. You can just like go, okay, what am I going to write about today? And I opened up summer fire, and it was the prompt number 3, and it was about speaking my truth. And that could be it. That's what I need. And maybe I don't need to go through this book at all in a linear way. Maybe I really just need to see what message needs to come to me today. So thank you for that. I think, this idea of the pause, which I do write about in just about every one of my books, is because, the great poet Rumi said, in the pause, life begins. It begins in the pause. And we almost have to schedule pauses in our life, because we don't.
No.
And there was a period of time where I did a little exercise with myself, where I actually set an alarm. And I just, when the alarm went off, it meant just pause randomly. Like, I would be careful. It wasn't when I was seeing clients or had something to do, but I knew like that it was an open space that could get filled up really quickly. And so I just set little alarms on my phone, and I tried it, and like a little bell ringing. Well, here's an opportunity to pause. Are you going to take it or not? So I think in a way, the book is a bell ringing and inviting us to do that. So anybody else want to say what it's like for you to have prompts, as opposed to just being able to write what you want? Yes, Elise.
I find the prompts very helpful, and even like I find times of free writing very helpful. But even that, for me, a prompt to do that, like intentionally, makes it a much more powerful experience, as opposed to just a lot of old patterning. And it helps me to, be with the and patterning.
Yeah, well, I want to speak to what you just said, because here's the thing. These are prompts, and you never know what a prompt is going to catalyze, right? You never know. So from my point of view, if the prompt you begin to write about, let's say, unlocking your heart or creating more space or taking the pause, if you just let that roll, it can take you into a free form writing that may have nothing to do with what the prompt was about. But the prompt is a portal, it just like opens the door. Now, at this moment, there's this prompt. Maybe I just open the book to it. Maybe it's the next prompt, and I like doing things in a linear way. And I did write it with an idea of building things upon things. It's not as if I wasn't intentional about that, but it doesn't really matter because this is your book. This is your time with yourself. And so, yeah, like something could really spin in a free form journaling experience that has absolutely nothing, maybe obviously, to do with your first few sentences that were in relationship to what you wanted to unlock. Because you did, if you noticed in your writing, you did spin out a little bit into ways in which you could take care of yourself and drop into your body perhaps more than your head sometimes, and be intentional about that. And you could have just riffed on that, because it's just like jazz, man. You just start somewhere and then you go. Yeah, TK.
Would you explain what you mean by drop into your body?
I'd love to. So we kind of did that initially during the little visualization, in which I was trying to say what the 5 elements were. And at any moment in that time, you could be observing things arising for you. So for instance, while I was writing, because I pay so much attention to my body, I saw myself take a big sigh at that one point when I was writing. All right. So I can multitask that now after so many years of using my body as data for me. But an example of how you might do that is if you just close your eyes a second. And you really do have to close your eyes because you have to go inside. To quote Rumi again, I close both eyes to see with the other eye, the inner eye. And so if you do that and you scan your body, just scan your body and go, in this moment, what part of me is calling out to me the loudest? Like, is there a part of me that's open or closed that seems very loud? For me right now, it's interesting that in my throat, I'm having a little bit of tightness here in my throat. And I'm not really knowing what that is. So I might have a breath and go to that place and say, if you wanted to speak to me right now about the quality of your sensation, what would you say to me? What would you say to me? And it's not to interpret even what's going on. It's more like, I'm constricted. I need a little more room. I'm getting something from this part, soften your expectations. That's what's coming up for me right now. And then just as I'm saying this, I'm having an awareness as it's moving to my mouth. And I'm noticing that my mouth is a little bit dry. And I ask my mouth, what's making you dry? What do you need? And what you'll see, TK, is that whatever is loud is saying, pay attention to me in your body, actually is a metaphor. It opens up a metaphor right away. If you stick to not rushing to interpret it and you just stay with it, stay with the sensation part of it, it will reveal something to you that is, and you could say, well, how does this apply? How is this sort of familiar right now in my life right now? So right now for you, what were you aware of in your body when you paid attention to it?
My shoulders, the tension in my shoulders, I carry that a lot.
Yeah.
And usually I'm unaware of it.
Yeah. So you were aware of tension in your shoulders. So if you went into your shoulders right now and wanted to give your shoulders a voice to us, and it doesn't have to be interpretive, it's just like the quality of sensation, and imagining that your shoulders are like a person, a human. What would they say? I feel what? You noticed you had a big breath. Yeah. And you notice that the shoulders are surrounding your lungs. And you
I'm
had
sorry, shoulders are surrounding what?
your lungs.
Your lungs.
They're protecting your heart, and they're protecting your lungs, your shoulder blades.
I'm really not sure what they're saying. I'll
Yeah.
have to work on that.
Well,
It feels sort of like it has to do with achievement.
uh-huh.
Like I'm ready to do the next thing
Yeah.
related to what I wrote.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And so I love that you said, I really don't know what it's saying. So you could make a promise to it. And you could say, you know what, right now in this moment, I'm kind of on the spot, but I'm going to come back to you and I want to listen to you again. I want to be more aware of what you're trying to tell me, shoulders. You have something you're trying to say. And when we're in our shoulders, which does protect our lungs and our heart. And there was a big breath when I asked you the question. And when you really went there, you'll notice those big breaths are aha, aha. They're moments of recognition. And what we know about shoulders is they carry the load. They carry the load. What's on my shoulders? Am I adding something else to my shoulders? Do they want me to add something else to my shoulders right now? Are they ready to carry something else?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I really do. I get that the body has a wisdom that we don't hear.
Yeah. We don't hear it unless, like Carol's piece was about the pause. If we pause and say, well, now I'm dropping into my body, when I'm dropping into my body, I'm dropping into myself.
Right.
That I'm not dropping, because there's mind in every cell of our body. So if I'm dropping into my body, I'm dropping into the mind that lives through every cell of my body. But I'm giving attention to something that I normally would disregard. And our bodies like it so much when we pay attention to it. Our bodies love it when we pay attention to it. I mean, if I'm, like I've presented like at huge conferences, and I might notice in the beginning that my heart is kind of pounding a little bit. And if I just, even before I start to speak, if I just take my hand and I acknowledge it, and I just put my hand there, like, I hear you. This is scary, but we're in this together. Just putting my hand there and acknowledging what my body is trying to say to me, something shifts immediately. Just like your breath. It's like, thank you. Yes, pay attention to me, please. So that's what I mean. Does that help?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a body scan, and it's a kind of attending to ourselves. It's a kind of listening. That might even mean, if I just say, okay, I'm going to tune into my body right now, it may be saying to me, I need that pause that Carol wrote about, or for you, it might be, where's the space? Where's the spaciousness? Where does that live? And I want to say one more thing about the shoulders, because you said it was like, I'm getting ready to do something. And what I want to say about the shoulders is often there's a feeling as if there are hands on the back of your shoulders pushing you forward. And whose hands are those? Are those should hands? Like whose hands are pushing me? And do I need them to? Do I have to talk to that force behind me that's trying to push me forward? What do I want to say? Do I want to argue with it? But I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm not ready. And then when do you feel the spaciousness? And is there any place in your body that you do feel spacious in? So when I'm working with a journal and I'm working with writing, I always tune into my body. It's always part of my journaling experience. It's not just what thoughts am I having. It's not just what feelings am I having. It's not even what am I sensing in my gut. Those are 3 centers of intelligence. But I always say, what does my body want to tell me right now? Because it's going to be the most truthful place for me. So I know we have like just 5 minutes, but I just want to ask if there was any other questions that people had. Okay. I see Sherry is molding, but I can't hear what you're saying. There.
Sorry, still was muted. Yeah, I just, not a question, but just, yeah, to reiterate that, because mine's in the shoulders too. And I hunch them up. And for me, that is keep plowing forward. That is when, my happy watch tells me to breathe a minute and I go, yeah, bite me. So that is, but the body is definitely, if you stop to listen to it, it's telling me, no, take a pause, because, sometimes the process is the result, and you're fighting and pushing towards the result all the time, especially these days, when we're all multitasking in outrageous and ridiculous ways, that without that pause, life becomes one big run-on sentence. I think we need the period at the end.
Yeah. And that, the period is just the pause. Like if you're reading your piece out loud or some of your writing out loud, you do notice that when you're, as a writer, you're very aware of, what kind of pause do I want? Do I want a comma? Do I want a period? Do I start a new paragraph? Do I want a colon? Do I want a semicolon? Those are really important decisions, right? And they're all about some form of a pause.
Yeah.
They're not even the end. They're just, I guess, the space in between. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all for showing up today. And if you've got my book and you want to reach out to me in any way, please feel free to email me. You can go to my website, ruthieenergy.com. And let's say you're working with the book and you come up against a stumped place or something amazing happens, reach out to me. I'm happy to engage with you in any way that I can.
Ruthie, thank you so much for this. What we're going to do also is, this session was recording. I'm going to stop recording, and then later on this evening, once it all downloads, I will send that recording out to everybody who did register for the class, and it will also be posted on YouTube. So we'll post on YouTube, I will send you that link. I will not fill up your mailboxes with a, 3 gig file, but yeah, there will be a link there.
That's great. It'll be on YouTube. And then the other thing is that if you want, I do have a blog that I was doing weekly. I'm kind of like so inundated right now that I'm not doing it weekly, but it's on my website, ruthieenergy.com, and it's called Dive Deep and Fly High. And if you want to reach out to me and become, part of that community of reading my blogs, then reach out to me. Go to my website and sign, and we can sign you up. So thank you, everybody. And I wish you a year of engaging with yourself in as deep a way as you can, and aligning yourself in balance with all of these different seasons that each have something to offer us. All the seasons do. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruthie. It's great.